America has seen its fair share of horrors, but what unfolded on a quiet suburban street in late 2024 was something darker than anyone could have imagined. It began like an ordinary evening. Families settling into their homes, children finishing homework, lights dimming across the neighborhood. But behind one door, a nightmare was about to unfold. A nightmare that would leave investigators shaken and a community forever haunted. The Johnson family was the picture of middle-class stability. Thomas, a devoted father, worked long hours at a logistics company. Maria, his wife, was beloved in the community for her charity work. Their two children, ages 10 and 7, were bright, polite, and adored by neighbors. To anyone looking in, this was the American dream. But dreams can turn into nightmares when secrets are buried just beneath the surface. It was October 12th, 2024. Neighbors remember the chill in the air, the quiet of the night. But one sound shattered that calm, a piercing scream, a woman's scream. Moments later, lights flicked on across the street. People came to their windows, and that's when they saw him, Thomas, standing in the doorway, his shirt stained, his face blank. He said only 4 words, "She's not breathing anymore." When officers arrived, they expected a medical emergency. What they found instead was carnage. Maria lay motionless on the living room floor, a pool of blood expanding around her. The children huddled in the corner, sobbing uncontrollably, and Thomas sitting silently, almost peacefully, with a murder weapon beside him. But here's the twist. He didn't run. He didn't fight. He simply whispered, "They made me do it." From the very first hour, investigators knew this wasn't a typical domestic homicide. The evidence didn't add up. Neighbors reported hearing multiple voices in the house before the scream. The children told detectives they saw a man in the hallway that wasn't their father. And Thomas himself, calm, detached, kept repeating the same words, "They made me do it." But who was they? The forensic team scoured the Johnson home. That's when they found something chilling. In the basement, hidden behind boxes, was a small recording device. It had been running for weeks, capturing hours of audio. And when detectives pressed play, what they heard sent shivers through the entire department. Late-night whispers, footsteps when no one was awake, and a distorted voice taunting Thomas. "Do it, or we'll take everything from you." Digging into Thomas's past, investigators uncovered something startling. He had recently filed multiple police reports claiming strangers were following him. Coworkers described him as paranoid, always looking over his shoulder, convinced someone was watching. Maria confided to friends that Thomas hadn't been sleeping and that he would wake up in the middle of the night, trembling, insisting they're in the house. At first, people thought it was stress, maybe even mental breakdown. But the recordings proved there was something more, something terrifyingly real. Here's where the story twists into pure horror. Police learned that weeks before the murder, Maria had been researching witness protection programs. She was reaching out to lawyers. She told a close friend she was afraid of what Thomas knew. But Thomas never worked in law enforcement. He wasn't a whistleblower. He was just ordinary, or so it seemed, because hidden in his work emails were encrypted files. And inside those files, evidence of illegal shipments. Millions of dollars of contraband moving through his company. Evidence that could take down some very dangerous people. Suddenly, the pieces began to fit. Thomas hadn't imagined being followed. Maria hadn't been paranoid for nothing. The whispers on the recordings weren't hallucinations. The Johnsons had been targeted, their home infiltrated, their every move monitored. And on that October night, the pressure reached its breaking point. According to investigators, Thomas may have been forced into an impossible choice: hurt the one person he loved most, or watch his entire family suffer. But even now, no one knows if Thomas acted willingly or if someone else was inside that house. All we have are fragments, the whispers, the blood, the children's testimony. And one haunting fact: the encrypted files Thomas uncovered disappeared from police evidence the very next day. Gone, as if someone didn't want the truth to be found. Tonight, Thomas Johnson sits in a prison cell, but he refuses to say more. He just repeats the same words over and over again. They made me do it. Who were they? What did Maria know? And most chilling of all, was the Johnson family the first target, or just the beginning of something far bigger? Because weeks later, across the country, another family would suffer the same fate. The Johnson murders should have been the end of the story. A grieving community, a broken man behind bars, a mystery that would fade with time. But it didn't fade, because just 3 weeks later, another family hundreds of miles away would be found slaughtered in their home. And suddenly, the nightmare wasn't over. It was spreading. November 2024, in a quiet town in Ohio, the Parker family was discovered in circumstances so chilling, it mirrored the Johnson case almost exactly. A mother dead, a father dazed, his hands bloodstained, children terrified, whispering that a man had been in the house. And once again, the father repeated the same words. They made me do it. For investigators, this was no coincidence. Two families, two fathers, the same whispers, the same recordings, the same missing files. It was a pattern, but a pattern of what? Some whispered about a secret syndicate. Others believed it was a psychological experiment. But the truth was far more disturbing. Remember the encrypted files Thomas Johnson had hidden in his work emails? The ones that mysteriously vanished from evidence? Copies had survived, leaked to a journalist working out of New York. And when she opened them, she discovered something terrifying. Not just shipments, not just contraband, but names. Hundreds of names. Families flagged, tracked, monitored. Each file marked with the same chilling label. Compliance program. What was a compliance program? According to the documents, it was a system of control. A shadow network targeting ordinary people, forcing them to cooperate through fear, intimidation, and violence. Step 1. Isolate the target. Step 2. Infiltrate their home. Step 3. Force obedience by any means necessary. Thomas Johnson wasn't paranoid. He was a pawn. And the Parker family? Just another name on the list. The deeper investigators dug, the clearer the connection became. Both Thomas and Parker worked for logistics companies. Both had access to shipping routes that could expose millions in illegal trade. And both families had tried to speak up, but someone silenced them. Brutally. The compliance program wasn't random. It was systematic. The journalist who leaked the files, Rachel Green, never made it to her next interview. She vanished. Her apartment was found empty, her laptop destroyed. The only clue left behind was a note on her desk. In rushed handwriting, it read, "They're already here." Her disappearance was never solved. But the file she uncovered would haunt investigators for years to come. Here's where the story becomes almost unbearable. As the truth trickled out, neighbors who had once pitted Thomas Johnson began to question everything. Was he guilty? Or was he just another victim? The children who survived, the ones who said they saw a man in the hallway, were ignored at first. But their testimony matched the Parker children's word for word. There was a man. He told Dad what to do. He said if Dad didn't listen, we would all die. By December, the FBI became involved. But even inside the Bureau, something was wrong. Evidence kept disappearing. Witnesses recanted, and agents who pushed too hard were suddenly reassigned or resigned altogether. One investigator went on record anonymously. "It's bigger than us. We're chasing shadows, and every time we get close, the shadows swallow us whole." Christmas Eve, 2024. From his prison cell, Thomas Johnson wrote a letter. In it, he begged for his children to be placed under protection. He said he had nothing left to lose. And then, in a shaky hand, he scrawled his final warning. They're not done. They won't stop until every file is burned, until every voice is silenced. Don't trust anyone. That letter was mailed to his brother, but it never reached him. It vanished in transit. By early 2025, the story had all but disappeared from the headlines. The Johnson case was labeled a domestic tragedy. The Parker murders, a copycat crime. The compliance program? Officially, it never existed. But families across the country whispered otherwise. They spoke of late-night footsteps, of cars idling outside their homes, of voices in the dark. And when asked who was behind it all, they gave the same chilling answer. We may never know the full truth, The Johnsons, the Parkers, Rachel Green, their stories are fragments of a larger puzzle. A puzzle someone doesn't want solved. But maybe that's the darkest lesson of all, that sometimes the enemy isn't a stranger breaking into your home. Sometimes it's the system you trust, the job you depend on, the silence you convince yourself is safety. And when the silence grows too loud, when the whispers turn into screams, the real nightmare begins. The American Nightmare 2024 is more than a story of murder and conspiracy. It's a warning that evil doesn't always come in the form of monsters hiding in the shadows. Sometimes it comes dressed in normalcy, a coworker's smile, a company's promise, a government's reassurance. The Johnsons and Parkers remind us that truth can be dangerous, but silence can be deadly. And maybe the greatest lesson of all is this. When you hear the whispers, when something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Because the cost of silence may be more than you're willing to pay. Subscribe for more chilling true crime stories told like never before. Comment your theory below. Who do you think they really were? If this story left you speechless, hit the like button to support the channel. Watch to the end for the haunting life lesson hidden in this nightmare.